Well, I am reminded of one of the songs that used to play in my house on Sunday morning. It was Mahalia Jackson, and she sang "A Great Getting Up Morning." And this is a great getting up morning for me. The difficult part of this moment is that I have prepared a talk that I know does not match what I have felt since I woke up this morning. Because I woke up this morning to a house full of people who have known me literally before I knew myself and throughout. But I'm going to try. So, there are moments like this moment that one wishes would last forever, that one hopes to be internalized and etched forever in the annals of time. One has few moments like this in their life. In this moment, I am filled with a sense of being blessed and with gratitude. So I want to start by expressing that gratitude. Let me begin with Chairman Willie Woods and members of the Board of Trustees for believing in my ability to lead this institution as the 12th president of Morehouse College. Now, I will admit, in case there's press in the House, that I did have an inside track. And that is that Chairman Woods, 28 or 7 years ago, was my student at the Harvard Business School. I'm not saying it helped me a lot, but it definitely gave me confidence that now was the time to come to Morehouse College. That the leadership of this board and its clear-sightedness about who we are and what we need to do to create a greater Morehouse in the 21st century. One that will have more impact in this century than it had in the last. I have confidence that this board is journeying with me in this effort. I want to thank you, the delegates from other institutions of higher learning. You've taken time from your busy schedules to celebrate with us today. You honor this institution with your presence, and you honor me. Thank you, members of the Collegium of Scholars, the Board of Preachers, and program participants. A special thanks to the faculty and staff of Morehouse College, and I would just ask them to stand. And thank you to our students and to our alumni. Important for me is to thank the men of the 2019 graduating class who will be my second class. Appreciate that. And I appreciate you. Eyes on the prize. We gotta walk that stage in May. All right. There are former presidents here, former presidents of Morehouse College. I have felt a brotherhood with each of you since taking this mantle. I've broken bread with each of you and welcomed your advice and counsel. I stand on your shoulders as I do those of the 9 other men who have experienced the awesome honor and responsibility to lead Morehouse College. A special thank you has to go to my family. There's little doubt that my standing before you today marks the height of what, on the moment of my birth, September 26, 1956, many would call an improbable journey. To be here today. The great blessing of my life has been that I have not traveled it alone. From the moment of my birth, I have been blessed. First, with wonderful parents whose spirit I feel with me in this moment, though they are not physically in this auditorium. Neither attended college, but each taught me the value of education and to go forth each day with one measure of how I performed. By answering one question: did I do my best? Not, did you win? Not, did you get an A? But did you do your best? They instilled a belief that I could do anything if I was willing to commit my best to it. I have been blessed. I have not traveled alone. 46 years ago, I met and fell in love with a woman. Now, I would like to tell you that it was in the delivery room, but it's been a few more years than that. But 46 years ago, I met and fell in love with a woman who has journeyed with me ever since. She has cheered for me, loved me, and offered vision for our lives. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like you to applaud the First Lady of Morehouse College, Willetta Lewis. It is our love that makes this journey possible, and I love her. It is because of her vision and wisdom that I'm blessed to be here with my 3 children, who I'm going to ask to stand. Summer Iman, David Jr., Nelson Du Bois, you are the greatest joy and pride of my life. And I thank you for allowing me to share that life with others whom I have committed to serve. You've taught me some of my greatest lessons about leadership. One example being, and this is my version of what my daughter once said to me, It was, Daddy, you don't always have to have the right answer, but you always have to listen. It's a great lesson for leadership when you sit atop an institution like Morehouse College, where if we are to achieve greatness, it will not be because I have the right answers. It will be because I listen closely to those who do. Members of my extended family are also here. They include my brothers, cousins, nephews, and nieces. I said to them last night that I've had so many moments in my life where I show up, and when I first say that I will attend, I think it's about one thing, like, will you come to the inauguration? Well, if I'm president, sure, I'll come. So I thought this was about me being installed as president, very simply. Last night I walked into my house after stressing and fretting over what I would say today, and the house was filled with my cousins and nephews, my brothers and my nieces, some of whom I had not seen since I was 16 years old. So what I realized is that it's not about simply an inauguration. It's about a moment to feel the love that has vibrated in the world for me since the moment I was born, and to feel it as a source of strength as I journey with you on this path at Morehouse College. I've been honored and surprised that so many friends have traveled here to share this moment with me. All of you have been there for me over the decades. Again, I walked down this morning. Actually, I came out of my study this morning, fretting again and stressing over what I would say this morning, and people were in my house who represented my life. They were there for me. And then we had breakfast together, or they had breakfast, and I watched them eat. I was too nervous. I am honored by your being here. Among you are some of my first friends in life. We met before grade school, in high school. Others were my partners in college adventures. Among you are my colleagues, my mentors, and former students. I know you've come here to support me, but I hope also in this moment that you take some pride of ownership, because without you, I would not be here. I know this expression of gratitude has gone long, but I have to extend it just a second more. I have to express my heartfelt thanks to all my Morehouse colleagues who have labored countless hours to make this event happen. Chief among them is the chair of the Inauguration Committee, dean of the chapel, and professor of religion, Dr. Lawrence Carter. My thanks to him and all who have labored with him to make this day possible. It's an odd feeling to, on one hand, have people call you the president, and there's something important happening in your institution, and you're the only one who's not involved in it. That's what inauguration has felt like. Everybody's been moving at 100 miles an hour, right? And nobody's asked me to do anything. They haven't even asked me to make a decision. And I want to thank those who gave greetings. In particular, my friend, the poet laureate for this inauguration, Herman Beavers. Herman and I went to graduate school together. I won't say how many years ago, but let's just say that I'm older than him. And I called Herman up. I called him Herm. And I said, hey, man, I want you to write me a poem for my inauguration. And he's a very busy guy. I could hear him labor. I could also hear him say, and he's not going to pay me. I could see his wife looking at him. Are you going to get paid? He said, hey, man, I got you. He sent me an email. He said, hey, do you need to read this just in case I say anything, in this world of, Twitter and gotcha media? I said, no, man, I trust you. And you fulfill my trust in you. That was an amazing poem. Thank you. So let me turn to the only thing that stands between you and the extraordinary weekend of events, parties, concerts, galas that we have planned here at Morehouse for this inauguration and Founders Week. And that which stands between you and those events is my inaugural address. I can't tell you how much time I've spent thinking about what to say. I even had the good fortune of having some great advice, but I couldn't take it from Harold Martin Jr. Harold and I had dinner the other night, and Harold's father is one of the deans of presidents of colleges and universities, Harold Martin Sr. So Harold says to me, he says, the first time my father had his inauguration, I wasn't able to make the actual inauguration. I called my father. My father said, hey, man, don't worry about it. The reality is, nobody will remember today. So he was telling me, don't stress it. At the end of the day, when you leave, this ain't what people be talking about. Harold, the wisdom of it was profound, but I was not wise enough to take it. And so I stressed. So here I am. And in this moment, there are a number of thoughts. The first that comes to me is that God always has a plan. It just does not run on your schedule. That was the voice of elders as I grew up. Why do I know that's true for me? Well, you see, my relationship with Morehouse College goes back at least 50 years. I've already told you when I was born, so I won't help you with the math. But at least 50 years. And it was around the time that I was 9 or 10. The civil rights movement was happening all around me. I became enamored of a man named Martin Luther King. I read about him. And I read that he had gone to Morehouse College. And I decided right then that I was going to go to Morehouse College. Neither one of my parents had gone to college. I didn't know many people had gone to college. I wasn't quite sure what college was, but I knew I was going, and I was going to Morehouse. Fast forward, it's 1974. I apply to 2 colleges, Morehouse College and another college that I had barely heard of, but a counselor encouraged me to apply. I got into both, and I could not afford to come to Morehouse College. So off I went to the other college, but always with this sense of Morehouse as a beacon. Well, it took me 50 years, but I finally made it. God must have had his hand in it, because in many respects, my journey to Morehouse has been about preparation for this moment. For 4 decades, as an academic and a professor, my intellectual interest in academic work and scholarship has been at the intersection of race, leadership, and human development. My work in the communities that I have been a part of has been animated by the themes that define Morehouse: social justice, global peace, respect for all, and the liberation of the human spirit. So, amazing as it feels to be here in front of you, it seems right. It seems right that today I lead an institution that can, without arrogance, proclaim itself to be the West Point of Black male leadership development. That I lead an institution where the tenets of Black liberation theology were honed and voices of the Black social gospel developed. You heard one here today, Reverend Moss, who gave the inaugural prayer. That I stand in the pulpit of the International Martin Luther King Jr. Chapel for this inauguration. It is amazing, but there is a rightness to it. It is meaningful to be inaugurated as president during Founders Week, a time to reflect and to celebrate, as well as a time to chart new vistas and to strengthen old resolve for excellence and achievement. I thought long and hard about this speech, this message, this set of reflections. And I began to think, what do I understand about Morehouse? And I also have spent significant amounts of time talking to our students, talking to our alumni, talking to those who were not students here, not alumni, but seem invested in Morehouse. And my analysis leads me to conclude that at her essence, there are 2 aspects of Morehouse that distinguish her, that make her important for the world. The first becomes obvious if you listen to the voices and the stories of Morehouse men as they describe their time on this hilltop. They say it in different words, but I have boiled it down to one phrase that I heard from one of those alumni. And that is that Morehouse is a place where young Black men can come and just be. Be during the most important and formative phase of their adult life, the ages of 17 to 22. It is literally true that when you come here and you are 18-year-old and you leave here and you are 22, your brain is different. That's why you think your parents have become so much more intelligent in the 4 years that you have been toiling to get a degree. It is also the period in which one asks the most fundamental questions. Who am I? Who can I be in this world? It is a place where they can just be without all the noise that surrounds being Black and male in this society. It is a place where there is as much protection as there can be anywhere on this planet from all the things that pull a young Black man away from answering those questions because he is answering other people's questions about him. So imagine what is possible in an environment where that noise is taken away. And the developmental task is not to defy stereotypes, not to live up to images, that you brought with you when you first arrived. The task is to discover who you really are. In that place, in this place, on this hill, defying, gravity-defying, self-discovery can take place. That has happened in this place for 152 years. On this hill. So I started to just call my talk Morehouse, right? We're a place where young black men can come and just be. But as I thought more deeply about it, I left my deliberations titling this talk, The Global Power of an Idea, for 152 years. That title is meant to focus on my second observation about the important essence of Morehouse and what draws people to it who are not alumni, who are not parents, who are not black even, who are from all parts of the world. What draws them to Morehouse, I believe, is that Morehouse is an idea that the world needs to have the imagination about what it can and should be. So imagine that you are here with me one day when I am not being celebrated as president, and it's noontime, and I have to eat. It's lunchtime, and we are walking this campus, and you have a thought that I had early in my time here and continue to have when I walk this campus at lunchtime, because you're observing what's going on. And your observation leads you to think to yourself, it's lunchtime. And at Morehouse College, there are 1,000 black men on the move at one time in one place in America. Think for a moment about the places where at lunchtime in America, in one place, there are 1,000 black men on the move. Most of those places we don't want to think about. So at Morehouse, as you stroll with me, we ask some questions. Those of you who may not be part of the formal Morehouse family, you say to me, you say, well, Dave, at Morehouse, what are these men doing? What are they doing? They are moving with purpose and intentionality to chart their own course in the world. What do they want? They want and they expect to thrive. The narrative of black men simply hoping to survive is absent in this place. And I remember growing up, right? And people would ask you, hey man, how you doing? I'm surviving. Not in this place. The hope, the expectation is to thrive. And what else do they want? They want to lead and they want to serve. And what do they believe? They believe they can change the world. And this is a place where those who toil here every day, we believe they can change the world. It is an idea. It is an idea Imagine a world in which, when you saw a group of black men, of men of color, or even a group, as you will see at Morehouse College, where most of the men there are black, but some of them aren't. Because not everyone in our college is a black man who's a student. But they are joined by a common set of values and a mission. And you say to yourself, right, what do I think they're doing? Imagine if our answer was, they are moving with purpose and intentionality. These are individuals who can lead and serve and change the world. If that was our assumption, the world needs that idea manifest as it is on this hill to move to be its best self. And, some have heard me say that the Morehouse idea is inextricably linked to the American idea. If you think about it, 400 years ago, there was no sovereign nation on this planet governed by the tenets that define the American idea. Rule of law, guaranteed individual rights and liberties, free markets, the idea that the class into which you are born is not your destiny. There was no place on the planet where all of those things operated simultaneously to define the best of what a nation could be. That's the American idea. Like the Morehouse idea, it is not yet perfected, but almost all of us wake up each day and in some way add something else to making it more perfect. That is what we do at Morehouse. Not yet perfect, but we wake up each day to make it more perfect. That is why many of you are in this room who are not part of the formal Morehouse family. Some of you are here from me. But even to them, I remind them, I've done some pretty good things in my life, and you didn't show for those. Had a couple of graduations, chair professorship, dean of a college, all had ceremonies, you didn't show for those. But there's something about Morehouse that has you say, we have to come and support him, not just because we love him, but because now he is working to perfect an important idea. Now, ideas are nice, and I have a couple of my board members, they have very analytical brains, right? And, they listen to me, sounds good. They're like, but, does it really work? I don't think they question the Morehouse idea in that way, but they question other things, and there may be some in the audience who just, that sounds good, but does it work? Well, the proof is everywhere in this room and beyond. Sitting here today is a cadre of distinguished alumni whose often unparalleled work has mattered globally. Sitting here today is a cadre of men, well-prepared men, Morehouse men, men with healing hands and helping hands, men who have engaged their time and talent for global significance, men who have stood as architects and gatekeepers for much that improves and sustains life for others throughout the world, men who are graduates of this institution and men who continue to make us proud. The evidence is all around us. In this room, we even have those who we will honor this Saturday who are not Morehouse alums. One of them is my good friend Tony Coles. He will receive a Candle Award. Tony gets asked to do lots of things. The minute I talked to him about this, he said yes. Why? Because he understands the idea and what it means that we place him as an example of achieving that idea. So, now, again, Morehouse is like the American idea. And I would have you consider, because I believe that we cannot perfect the American idea without perfecting the Morehouse idea. So the seed for this idea was planted 152 years ago when our founder, William Jefferson White, held a meeting in the basement of a church in Augusta, Georgia. 9 black men were present, just released from bondage. More than likely, they had come to believe that they were inferior. And in that moment, William Jefferson White walked in and he made some proclamations. He said, "You are a human being." It may not sound like significant words to us today, but imagine if you thought yourself less than that you had never heard anyone tell you to expect more than that, the transformative nature of that idea. And then to be told you have the capacity to learn, to be educated, to lead, and to serve. And then to conclude, school is open. Morehouse College has begun its journey as an idea that defied many people's expectations of the moment, even those that it was created to serve. In the ensuing years, each president since that moment has been the steward of that idea, charged with making it more powerful and more perfect. Each in its time confronted unique opportunities and challenges. And now, as we go forward in this, the second half of Morehouse's second century, we must understand the historical moment that is before us, the unique challenges and opportunities, and prepare ourselves for them. This is required if we are to make the Morehouse idea more perfect and more powerful than it has ever been. And that is a tall order when you think about the impact of this small institution on the evolution of the last century. So what is the historical moment that we are in? Put another way, where are we in the arc of our history? So if you visited the National Museum of African American History and Culture, you may recall that there are 3 exhibition floors. Each floor has a theme that defines a period of the Black African journey in the New World. There's a floor themed hope, a floor themed faith, and a floor themed resilience. The first floor, the bottom floor, there are no lights, is the period of slavery. It is the darkest hour. Hope is often all you have in your darkest hour. Without it, you would not continue the journey. The second floor is themed faith. This period defines the 103 years that begin with Reconstruction and end with the Civil Rights Movement led by Dr. King. Benjamin Mays, storied president of Morehouse College, was the perfect voice and leader in this period. He continuously proclaimed and projected Morehouse as a candle in the dark, whose flickering light kept faith. Now, the third floor is themed resilience. It defines the period in which we now find ourselves. And we are moving into the second half of the first century of it. If we mark the end of the period of faith with Dr. King's death in 1968, we have just finished the first 50 years of the period of resilience. And what we can anticipate, because if the period of faith started around 1865, then 50 years in, we were looking at Dr. King come of age and come to leadership. I was born in 1956. And what we know is that the second 50 years of that period accelerated at an amazing speed. What we can anticipate is that the second 50 years of this period of resilience will accelerate at an amazing pace. But what defines the period of resilience? Well, on one hand, it is defined by the idea that anything is possible. If we look at Black achievement, Black male achievement in the last 50 years, we see things that those like me, born at the nadir of the period of faith, could never imagine. I'll give you an example. I was born in 1956, a few months after the Montgomery boycott ended. And I recall vividly, when I was around 6 or 7 years old, adults asking, that proverbial question, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I remember my first answer. I said, I want to be president of the United States. Only a few months, maybe a year later, my answer changed. I said, I want to be a lawyer. Somewhere, as a child born in the period of faith, even as it was accelerating, a seed had been planted in me that told me that my possibilities were limited. A boy who looked like me in 1964, despite ability or ambition, would never be the president of this country in my lifetime. And yet, in my lifetime, in this period of resilience, a Black man came to occupy the most exclusive public housing in America, the White House. He didn't even have a name, a good Irish or Scottish name like David Anthony Thomas. The most seriously talked about candidate today for presidency is a Black woman. I was just in Washington. The list of accomplishments and possibilities in this era seems endless. Black people have succeeded and led in every area of activity that shapes our world. And yet, this is a period of paradox. Because on the other hand, implicit bias, attitudes of white supremacy, institutionalized discrimination and inequality seem even more intractable than the legalized forces of Jim Crow that resisted integration and the right to vote. They continue to undermine and cut short Black lives, Black hopes, and Black dreams. We live in a period of resilience and paradox. And so the question for Morehouse becomes, what must we do to secure the next 150 years? What must we do to seize possibilities that we cannot see today? What must we do in this period? We must build an even more resilient Morehouse, preparing our students and our institution to seize opportunities not yet visible or dreamed possible. This is required to ensure our ability to meet the challenges that will call into question our very existence, undermine our potential, and lay bare our dreams. It is required to enable us to see and seize the opportunities that will define our relevance and greatness in the 21st century. So today I ask us to commit to our 150-year-old mission to develop, or I should say, to recommit, because we cannot take it for granted. Our 150-year-old mission to develop men with disciplined minds to lead lives of leadership and service. And we must pursue this mission focused on a clear vision of excellence and impact. To be the premier liberal arts college in the world, attracting and educating Black men and other men who identify with our mission and share our values, and in so doing, become the global voice on the education and development of men of color, and in so doing, to be an exemplar of excellence. I am happy to report that this work has already begun. Indeed, this coming Monday, aptly titled President's Day, we will begin at Morehouse a community-wide conversation to design our future. It will culminate in a strategic plan that will define much of what will be my tenure as president of Morehouse College. I'm proposing 4 themes to guide us in this work. The first is realizing excellence. Our job is to bring forth the innate excellence already in every Morehouse learner. This begins with extraordinary academic curriculum and teaching that rival any institution in the world. This education is supercharged through high-impact practices in preparation for extraordinary opportunities upon graduation. Our ultimate goal must be more Morehouse graduates serving and leading in the world. The second theme is elevating our mission. The sustainability of Morehouse now and into the future is paramount. More than just sustaining our operation, we look to achieve new heights to guarantee that the Morehouse mission and the Morehouse idea outlast all of us in this chapel today. We will need to ensure our physical spaces and places are worthy of our legacy. We will ensure that our technology, communications, and knowledge dissemination amplify our voice. The third theme, Morehouse beyond borders. We will explore, experiment, and adopt ways to expand our reach beyond the borders of our campus. This will require us to transform our educational paradigm from one that views our students as learners for 4 years and then alumni. Our new paradigm must assume and support lifelong learning through deep engagement with our alumni and other stakeholders. We will design robust and innovative programs infused with Morehouse's unique blend of values for learners at all stages of adult and professional development. We must move beyond our campus to claim our moral authority and be a globally relevant voice on all manner of issues relevant to the education and development of men of color. We must become truly global in all aspects of our work, especially the education and development of our students and our civic engagement. And finally, the fourth theme, exercising stewardship. Today's environment requires us to exercise stewardship over our resources effectively and efficiently. Internally, we must create alignment and transparency to create virtuous, reinforcing relationships between and among our activities. But just as important, perhaps even more important, will be creating partnerships of purpose with institutions that share our values and identify with our mission. In this, we will exponentially increase the value our students and other stakeholders gain from their engagement and investment with us. And I know the power of this idea because here in the Atlanta University Consortium, we have 4 of the greatest educational institutions in higher education, all with abutting borders. Spelman College, Clark Atlanta University, the Interdenominational Theological Institute, Morehouse College. We can begin right here, creating partnerships of purpose that exponentially increase the value that those who engage with us and invest with us experience. And we have to address the reality of our resource constraints. There are many institutions we compete with that are better endowed. Stewarding our current resources efficiently and effectively is required, but not sufficient. We must commit to undertake a capital campaign to secure the next 150 years of Morehouse, leading in the development of leaders who make a difference in the world. That campaign will have 4 pillars. Endowment for scholarships. We must address the issues of affordability of the education we provide. It's personally important to me because had I gotten a scholarship from Morehouse College, I would have come to Morehouse College. We must build the campus of the future. We cannot educate leaders for the 21st century in a mid-20th century campus. We must support centers of excellence and innovation that prepare our students for the opportunities of the 21st century, that increase and deepen the impact of Morehouse's distinctive values on them, and that engage the world around the issues that have mattered at Morehouse College for 152 years. And we must support research and professorships. This must not be a place where the price of being a faculty member is that you give up your research. Because the creation of new knowledge is inextricably linked to the quality of the education that is provided and increases the likelihood that your students, our students, will be prepared for a future that we cannot see today. This capital campaign will be historic in its aims and dwarf any previous campaign effort in the school's history. I believe our greatest challenge is not the charting of the course to a greater Morehouse, rather, It is the belief and courage to invest in and pursue it. Today, I ask you to engage with renewed vision, powered and sustained by the guiding spirit of our mission and its core values. As we give life to new aspirations, blaze trails for new paths of service, and move forward with renewed energy to formulate viable plans to engage an exciting future. It will not be easy, because it will require us to examine all aspects of what we do and how we can continue to make a distinctive and unique impact on the world. It will require each faculty, staff, student, alumnus, and friend of Morehouse to ask and answer the question, does the world need Morehouse? And then to commit accordingly with time, with talent, and with treasure. So I've gone on longer than I anticipated. Some of you may have noticed that my glasses broke, so I haven't been able to watch my wife's expression. She usually is my timekeeper. Cut it short, you don't need that paragraph, but I haven't been able to see you, honey. So I had to give the speech. But I want to close. Good news. Good news. What all crowds hope to hear in an inauguration. I want to close. I want to close with a brief story. A brief story. A brief story that captures the design for my work at Morehouse as the 12th president in this time of resilience and paradox. That story has two actors. It takes place as I turned 30. The actors are a 30-year-old, almost 30-year-old David Anthony Thomas, about to finish his Ph.D. at Yale University, and thinking about what he's going to do next. What will life be like in the real world? And the other voice in the story is a 50-plus-year-old man, Jesse Jewell Thomas Sr., my father. And so, I'm sitting there. I think I was home. I was probably home for a holiday or something. And I'm thinking about what to do. And so I say to I say to my father, hey, Daddy, what's the hardest job you ever had? His response was immediate and with assurance. He said, being a father. I was totally confused. My father had some hard jobs in his life. He was a janitor. He was a welder in Kansas City, Missouri, who worked in the military industrial complex welding. So he was outside in sub-zero weather welding tankers. I remember him coming home talking about it, blisters on his feet. He was a laborer in the slaughterhouses of Missouri and Kansas. And he was a union organizer. He had no degrees, not even a high school diploma. But he had a Ph.D. in being a father. You clap. I was confused. How could a guy with a Ph.D. in being a father who's worked all these hard jobs say the hardest thing he'd ever done was be a father? So I asked him, because he made it look easy and he appeared to enjoy it. right? So I said, well, why was this the hardest job you ever had? And his answer was, again, confusing. He said, well, I never really know how I'm doing. Now, at the moment, I thought to myself, well, gee, you raised 4 boys. You didn't have degrees and, fancy jobs. And at this point in time, I was on my way to get a Ph.D. It's pretty clear my little brother was going to move to get him a doctorate. My other brothers were doing well in their chosen professions. We were off the dole, and I grew up in an era where my father told me, like, that was the, I got you till you're 18, then you got to go somewhere. Right? That's success. He prepared you to go somewhere other than to his house. So I'm like, wow, what? So anyway, he says, you never, I said, why is this the hardest job? He says, you never really know how you're doing. So I asked him, when will you know? And his response was elegant in its clarity and simplicity, and yet profound. He responded, I will know when I see how my kids raise my grandkids. And I asked him, so what do you do in the meantime? And he said, in the meantime, I do the very, very best I can. So the lesson for me about my leadership, because this conversation has come back to me many times in the 20 years since I started to assume leadership positions in organizations. The reality is that while hopefully we will celebrate many moments of achievement, we will not know until long after I leave this presidency how I have truly done. We will not know until we see how other presidents move Morehouse College forward because of what has been left for them in my presidency. But like my father, in the meantime, I vow today, and most especially to my students who will be here during my tenure, I vow to you and all members of this audience that I will do the very, very best I can every day that I am president of Morehouse College. Thank you.